So you're here to oversee the North American County Board Championships. Meanwhile, there's a football championship or semi going on in Ireland. Can you talk about why you wanted to come here instead of sticking at home to watch over that?
Okay, well, the reason I'm here is to acknowledge what's going on here in the North American Board. We are very well aware of the activities, but it's not good enough just to hear about it. You have to come and see it for yourself. So the situation is we can only come for the finals. Every year there are 5 Sundays in September, because normally the first September weekend we have a hurling final. So I was fortunate enough in my 3 years that I could come last year, I can come this year. But unfortunately I won't be able to come next year. So it's important to come, see what's happening, see it firsthand, acknowledge it. And while there's a very important game on at home, it's a semi-final, and just for this weekend we view this as more important.
So you said it's one thing to hear about it, it's one thing to experience it for yourself. What have been your impressions apart from what you've heard? Okay,
the first impression is the level of organisation is staggering. We can't get over. Anytime we come to an event, a GAA event in North America or New York or Canada, we're staggered by the level of planning, the level of organisation goes into it. You walk around here today, there are tents, everybody knows where they're going, there's a tent provided for them, there's a big tent for food. The organisation, the registration is just done with such efficiency, and what really impresses us is the discipline on the field and the fact that people take the decisions by the organising committee without fuss, and they know the rules. And I think that's something that has improved in the North American County Board and in North American GAA, is that as more and more Native Americans get involved, the respect goes up, because they just don't, they're not used to anything other than respecting decisions that are taken. And I think that has had a huge beneficial effect on the Irish people who are here playing Gaelic games.
You said in an interview with the newspaper that Americans in the Gaelic games abroad are the future of the sports. How does this stack up in going to that end?
Well, it stacks up perfectly, because we've seen here there are more and more people who are born in America playing our games, and that's very, very important for us, because it means that there's development taking place already. I just witnessed Milwaukee win the hurling championship here, junior hurling championship, and playing another local team, Madison, and the standard of hurling was great. But the level of freshness that people bring to our Gaelic games here, because they come to it from all other different sorts of sports, and they just have a different outlook on how Gaelic games is played, whether it's football, hurling, or camogie, or ladies football. And we're very, very impressed by that. What I've seen here this weekend convinces me that when we knew Gaelic football would take off here, we knew ladies football would take off. The increase in the number of teams playing camogie, and the increase in people from Native Americans, Native born Americans who have taken up hurling at adult level, shows that you can play the game, that it's much easier to spread than we thought. And I thought that the freshness of the game I've just witnessed just blew my mind away, really. I think it's fantastic to see people taking a fresh approach and doing different things. And what's happening in Milwaukee, if that happens around the country and happens abroad for us, hurling is really going to become an international sport very, very soon.
So that's an interesting point. Do you see hurling or Gaelic football or the ladies versions becoming more well known and maybe taking off somewhere else, maybe more popular than in Ireland?
Yeah, I think we have to. I think we've seen enough now. We've talked about it long enough. We've seen that the evidence is there that it can happen. I think now we kind of have to work with those who want to make it happen with us. And I think you'll see greater engagement from the GAA in Dublin, in Ireland, with what's happening here and in the other places where it's growing around the world, because we feel that now is the time. We know that the publicising of our games abroad, whether that's through computers, through the web, through TV, whatever's going to happen, we're going to have to make sure people can access our games, and that's going to be a challenge for us, because we haven't managed to do it yet. But if we can get our games on TV here in North America, I think that will make a huge difference. We are also looking at that in Asia as well, and in the Middle East and in Europe. And if we can get people to see our games, get people to come out and take part, that would be a huge help to us. But what's happening here is very, very important to us. But what's more important is the fact that a lot of clubs here in North America are now taking the juvenile sections very seriously. Underage is going really well. I was present at the CYC games this year in Philadelphia, last year in Chicago. And our challenge now is to make sure that those players have a future playing at this level. And if that means cutting down on sanctions, if it means cutting down on people being brought out from home, just to make sure that there's a career path for a player who starts off playing in juvenile, that's the kind of decision we're going to have to make now with the North American board. But the North American board anyway has a healthy, sort of a fresh attitude to that anyway. They know, they see the future. The future is the young people coming through to play at this level with the adults who played for the first time. And if you consider that that possibility wasn't around 10 years ago, you can see why we're really optimistic about the future.
So is that a concern of the GAA and the NACB and other boards abroad, the influence of Irish and the balance of Irish and natives playing the game?
We have to get that balance right, and gradually we have to phase out people who just come over. I'm not talking about Irish people who settle here, that's great. They're count them the same as those who are born here, but those who just come over for the summer and who leave nothing behind them and don't really contribute to long-term development, we have to kind of phase that out. And we have to say that if we're going to support what's happening here, we have to be brave enough to take those decisions at home too. Put them in a roadblock and say, look, the growth of the game here is so important that we have to leave it as much as possible to those who live here.
In a few weeks, there's going to be a gathering hurling event in Galway.
Yes.
How do you, if you could tell the future, how do you think that the hurlers will be received from America and abroad?
They'll be received very well, and I spoke to Milwaukee after the game there, and I said that the fact that they're going to Galway, the fact that they're going to play in Ireland is going to give people a chance, first of all, to see them, but it's also going to make an awful lot more people aware of what's going on here. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see native-born Americans playing hurling in Galway. I think that's something that we wouldn't have thought of 10, 20 years ago. So that's a huge promotional event, I think, for the game in North America.
And what, have you been to the other, like the Dubai games and the Southeast Asian games? Have you been to any of those?
I haven't been to them. I've seen games in Australia. I've seen games in Europe. I haven't been to the Asian games yet, but I have seen games in Britain, and I know what the standards like, and this compares very favourably with it. You have to accept that the game in Britain and probably the game in New York is longer established, so you would expect that they would be at a higher level just at the moment. But I think what's happening here shows that the game here is catching up rapidly. And you see, as new people take up the sport, everyone who takes it up from scratch starts on the same level playing field. So it's whoever applies themselves best to it becomes better. And I think what's happening here, and the approach to training, the approach to the games, the discipline shown in the games, I think makes the game a more attractive game to be involved in.
And organizationally, how do the games abroad compare to how the tournaments here have been organized? What could NACB learn from other tournaments?
The NACB has nothing to learn from other tournaments. I think the NACB is the leader here, and I say that genuinely. You would not see this level of organisation anywhere in the world, and I think that's something that if we can take anything from what's happening here, that's one thing. The level of organisation, the level of preparation, even the fact that people will play the first final at 8 o'clock in the morning, that would be just unheard of anywhere else in the world. I suppose we wouldn't need to do that at home, because we could spread out our games over 7 day a week, and the travelling distance isn't the same. But just seeing people overcome the difficulty posed by the distances between clubs and organising a tournament like this, and the fact that people come to pay for their own competition for the weekend, everyone here contributes to it. I think that's key to it, really, that people make the effort to come, they have ownership of the tournament, of their involvement in it, and that gives greater commitment.
There are like 115 teams or something like that here, 2,000 athletes. Is that,
it's staggering.
How does that compare?
It's we just wouldn't have that in one tournament. We wouldn't be brave enough to try that, because, and I suppose we're fortunate that we have our facilities located dotted around the country at home, so you wouldn't have to have that level, that sort of congregation of people coming together. But it's really impressive. I think we've over 40 finals today. That's really staggering. It's huge commitment, and it means people stay around to support each other. What's really interesting to see here is how the ladies' teams and the men's teams support each other, and it's a kind of it's a family of Gaelic games. The CYC tournament is kind of a family event in a real sense, in the sense that parents come with children, but this is more difficult because it's adults, and yet there's a family feel to it, and the club really matters to people and being together. And I think what helps hugely is that lots of the teams are called after the place that they live in. You know, whether it's Milwaukee, whether it's St. Louis, that helps. I think it gives identity, and that's what we built on at home, is that we call them after the places people live in, and that's, I think, something that would help greatly here too.
And lastly, what do you see going forward as far as the NACB, GAA in Ireland? You know, what's the future hold for the games?
I suppose the future holds, what it holds is more involvement by people born here, children coming through. I see the future really bright. I see that it's people know now it's possible to start up hurling and football teams on this continent without having Irish roots. I think that's important, and I see the future very bright. I see. I never thought I would say that hurling and camogie have as bright a future as they have now, but I've seen it. I know it's possible. I know our games are good, and as I said to the Milwaukee after their final, hurling belongs to everybody who wants a part of it. And I think that what's happening here is people have seen the game, they like it, they've taken ownership of it, and that's delighted. They've taken what we have, brought it to another continent and developed it. And I see the future really bright. I think that there's going to be a wider spread on the organisation. It may come to a stage where we might have one North American unit which would promote the game without, you know, the three sections we have now, and I think that would be a huge benefit if we could bring that about, because there's strength in unity. And I think what's really refreshing is that the ladies' games and the men's game are going to be developed together, and that's something we're trying to achieve at home. So what's happening here actually is ahead of what we want to do at home. I think that should give great heart to those who have a vision for Gaelic games here.